Welcome to the podcast. Woo. Thanks for coming on, Jem.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here.
Yeah. How's you're in evening, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Day, you're in the past, we're in the future.
Shit, yeah,
I
you
can
are.
I can tell you the future's good. It's nice. It's very humid over here, but the future looks good so far
I
from
am
what I've
hoping
seen.
for that because Florida got snow for the first time literally ever. And people
You
are
get snow.
saying we had snow days this week. Like school canceled for snow day. hmm
Didn't
hmm
you try and leave the snow?
Listen, I don't even want to talk about it because I'm really upset. But yes, as a Canadian, one, it was hilarious because it was like literally frost. Like I don't know what they're talking about. But yeah, this is everything that we tried to avoid.
I love it, mate. I only really have one real official question because some people might not know who you are, but they all should. And if they don't, they will, because you're going to say within about 20 words or less who you are and what you do, and then it's on. Yeah,
I
I
am
don't know.
Jem.
Jim.
Most people know me as Stu's wife. But I do physical therapy, chiropractic, and acupuncture, and I do online powerlifting rehab.
Wow.
Mhm.
I think Stu should be known as Jem's husband.
Thank you so much. But he hit the social media platforms like a decade before I did.
Yep. You got more followers though, right?
Oh, yeah. Like I smoked
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. Like if there's flexing on followers, you got him hands down. You're like 60, 70 or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's very weird because I didn't even get social media until I was like 30 because I was so anti social media my whole life. And then, of course, I started an online company and I'm like, crap,
Yeah,
I'm
it
gonna
turns out
have
you needed
to figure this out. But yeah, no, I smoked him.
it. Do you remind him of that? Do you like to have a bit of poke at that one? Say, hey buddy, need any tips? I'm over here.
No, because I know deep down he feels it so strongly that like I can't bring it up.
But I mean, Stu's game's good. Your game's solid too on there, right? Is that something you've had to learn to do? Or did it come naturally to you?
It does not come naturally to me at all. I'm very private. I
Yep.
don't like sharing. Like you probably have seen my social media. Like nothing about it is about me.
Yep.
Mind you, I don't think people care. Like, right? They're on there because they want to learn how to help themselves.
Yep.
So I don't. Yeah, I choose not to share private things on social
Yep.
media.
Yep.
I just try to share things that show people that as lifters, if you get absolutely mangled, don't ever listen to someone who tells you you have to stop.
Amen to that.
Yeah. And Stu's is
Absolutely.
more like, let's ruffle feathers and let's start some shit.
let's blow up my DMs and in the
Yeah.
comments and start wars. And is that like in its simplicity your passion, like preventing that word of you can't do this anymore and finding a different path?
Yeah, because interestingly and admittedly, my background is actually not in sports. My residency was in chronic pain management and clinical psychology of pain. So I think how people are like delivered certain messages and how people are educated about themselves and the positions that they're in essentially dictate the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have physicians that are not educated in sport, exercise, especially in strength sport,
Yeah.
giving people advice that they don't really have the education to comment on. You might
Mm-hmm.
know a lot about medical stuff, but that doesn't mean you know anything about fitness stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, they give consistently terrible advice, and it's the reason why a lot of people's careers have ended early.
Yeah. And then they end up with all sorts of other issues. I think the bit that I found interesting, all of it's interesting, but the psychology of rehabilitation as well. Like, I don't think that's a conversation that's ever had, or if had, incredibly rarely in the space in a physio room, in my
Yeah,
experience. And
I
it's
mean,
like, it's a huge part of it.
you could literally see two patients with the exact same condition, and I'll tell you how I respond to it is going to be how it's going to go.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
called the nocebo effect, right? If you're a
Yeah.
doctor and you give somebody a negative perception, they will have more negative outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Which, if you went to general medicine with, lack of a better word, maybe a busted back or something like that, they'll be like, "How did you do it?" And you'd be like, "I did it X, squatting, deadlifting, benching, whatever. They'll be like, well, you can't do that anymore because that does
And you're
that.
like, oh my God, like that much weight, that's so dangerous. It's like, how
Yep.
can you comment that's dangerous if you don't even know what they're doing?
Yep.
You know, like you don't know anything about that world. So yeah, it's a big problem. And I mean, I recently moved from Canada to the US, which is
Mm-hmm.
really interesting because I went from like socialized medicine
Yep.
to extreme capitalism and have seen how that manufactures perceptions of injury in sport. And
Yeah. Right.
very monetarily driven in the US, and in Canada has a lot more due to it's a lot more conservative management because they don't have the
Yeah.
money to spend on it because it's paid for by the government. I mean, your taxes, let's be honest, but
Yeah. Still paying it somewhere or other. Either way.
yeah, but
Was that a was there a
completely.
learning curve between operating in the two countries,
I
like
find
for
that
yourself?
I get more frustrated here because people are really pushed into surgery very fast, and very rarely do people end up better than when they went into surgery.
I like that. I want to quote that one.
Yeah, it's honestly like I'd say this last month has been so eye-opening to me getting patients from like world-renowned hospitals and orthopedic institutes in Florida and
Yeah.
seeing how mismanaged they were if I were to compare what you should do in this country versus what they do in that country. I mean, if it's
Yep.
the same condition, you should do the same thing. Like the
You would
research
think
isn't
so.
different. They just
Hmm.
kind of choose what makes them money.
Surgeons want a surgeon, right?
Yeah. They'll give you like a million injections of like all these steroids that they know break down your tissue, and then your
Mhm.
body part explodes and they're like, "Oh no, you need surgery."
They need that surgery. Yeah,
Like, how
100%.
did you not know that would happen though?
Yeah, the challenging part, it's that trust bit, I think, because they've already got it from you because they've got the DR in front of their name, and if that's your first second touch point, and if it's a surgeon, then there's another X factor name behind it that goes, oh, they said it, so you instantly, I think, already starting to think that that's the only right way to go about doing things
Yeah.
without
And
trying to explore other options.
I see people like this is how I see myself going to like a car dealership. It's like
Mm,
this is not my wheelhouse. If they tell me that, my coolant has expired and I have to, you know what I mean? Like I'm like, "Oh, okay, like I don't know. Like why would
do
I
the
know?
same
I
thing.
didn't spend 10 years learning about cars. I spent 10 years learning about bodies."
Yep.
So when patients come in, they're at the mercy of the doctor. So why would they assume that they're not being given good information?
Yep. Yeah, I am. Yeah. I know for me, I always try and get my clients to challenge if they're given medical stuff, just ask questions, ask why, and see it, to get another opinion before you start going that route as well. And for me, I personally think I've got two clients. I've got one who had a shoulder surgery and he asked a lot of questions, asked a lot of people, saw a lot of people, and then the story started lining up. Plus, he did the rehab stuff first, and no effective change, just more pain. And it was writing was on the wall to do that thing. And then I've got another guy who's got it, which he hasn't had that same experience, but he tried the rehab and he's doing the rehab first before surgery become an option. And he's already getting effective change. So for him, that shows the two possibilities. Yeah, you can do all this stuff, but maybe you might still need to do something medically. But then there is still the possibility, if you do all the other stuff, there is another side without a surgery option, right?
Yeah, and that's why Canada, I now appreciate a little bit more. I mean, when you're in it, it's frustrating because you can't get people surgery that need surgery because
Mm,
it's socialized medicine. So it's like, okay, well, they don't want to pay for that surgery, so they're going to try and look for reasons why you don't need it.
mm.
But the flip side of that is that nobody can even be a candidate for surgery if they don't do 6 weeks of rehab.
That's cool.
So it's like, okay, well, if you didn't try to fix it on your own,
Mm.
why would we cut you up? Why would that be option A? That should never be
Yep.
option A unless it's like an actual emergency.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. That's
Mhm.
cool. That's a
Yeah,
great idea.
but in
How did you
America,
start with this? What got you saying you wanted to educate in this space and go there?
like in strength sports.
No, like original, like your courses that you've trained to get Dr.
Oh
Gem,
boy,
your title. Like,
yeah. I think being like I was a nerd. Like I competed in like mathlete competitions, and like that's what I liked. And people are always like, "Oh yeah, that means you have to be like a doctor. You have to be something, really big." And then as I talk to people about that, the guidance of where do you go, they always drilled into my head, do not focus on the career that you think is going to make you happy. Find what you like to learn about and just go do that
Mm.
for a while. And I
That's
was
clever.
like, well, I really like sports. I did competitive gymnastics my whole life. I did, cheerleading and dance, and I was kind of more in that world. But like, I had a gym membership since I was in grade 9, which I don't think is super common back in the early 2000s. Um, and so I was like, okay, well, I'll go into kinesiology because it's like
Mm.
human body and biology, and it's also sports. That's really
Mm.
sick.
That's
And
cool.
then, from there, I kind of got more into the world of like fixing bodies and how you can fix bodies. And yeah, just ended up like being a career student.
Mm.
And then just kind of hit a point where I was like, okay, I have to grow up. I think I'm doing this because I am scared to actually just go out there and live. So after 10
Mm.
years of school, I think it's time to lock it up and go do something with it.
Do something with that, with those practical skills you got. And
Yeah.
did you land yourself straight into a sports space, or?
No, it actually came about because the medical model that we have implemented in Canada did not work for athletes. Like they
Mm.
were falling under the cracks. They were not getting served by the way that we were supposed to practice. The
Mm.
time that we spend with patients, like the frequency of appointments, the caliper and the scale ability of what you learned in school from a rehab perspective to help people. They were not helping people that could deadlift 800 pounds,
Mm.
right? So all of
Yeah.
these people who with really specialized sport skill sets were
Mm.
not getting better. And I was like, okay, there's a big problem here because these are all the patients that are not getting better and they're ending up in the chronic pain cycle, which is
Yeah.
what I learned about and what my background was on. So
Yeah.
I actually opened up a second practice next to the gym that I was training at. And it was like a big gym space. And I started actually working with like high school age boys in like hockey and soccer and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I met my husband and he's coaching all these people and he's like, oh, this happened and they went to this doctor and they're recommending these really shitty things and they gave him, like a bird dog and this guy deadlifts 1,000 pounds. Like, what do I do with this? And I'm like, I can talk to them.
I got this.
And then we started this online business where,
Yeah.
I, appraise and assess each of our clients that we bring on.
Mm.
And most of our clients have really complicated medical histories, whether it be surgery or, any type of health issue. We've had people with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. We've had people with, history of strokes. We have people who have had spinal reconstructive surgery. We have all sorts of stuff. I mean, my husband, bilateral patellar ruptures. Um, and figuring out like how do we make sure these people don't fall through the cracks? How do we
Mm.
actually help them in sport and also help them in recovery?
Yep.
And we kind of built that model together, really.
Yeah. I think you guys have got an extraordinary online business. I
Oh,
love
I
it.
appreciate that.
One of my favorites to follow and look to as a good thing, as an example of what you should be putting on the internet and what you can actually do with it, which is wild. And then I think that you show what this online space can be done. In Australian term, I guess physio. Would you be comparable to with a physio, but a bit more in Australia? Would that be a like?
No, I guess that's
Sort
reasonable. I mean, I kind
yeah.
of have really made a career that I'd say doesn't really exist as a career pathway. It's just
No.
how my career ended up, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Which I think, no one's really doing it just yet too much, but you show that it can happen and it should be able to happen, right?
Yeah,
And now your
well,
reach to the world is the world, so to speak.
it's just yeah, it's like once you've gone to school for 10 years, I think the
Mm.
last thing people want to do is like, now I should learn this entire secondary skill set of
Mm.
how to coach people because
Yeah.
I think there's this vulnerability that doctors feel when they're like, I don't know shit about that,
Mm.
right? And it's
Yeah.
this like I think a lot of them have kind of like, an ego where they're like, oh, they're just a personal trainer. How would they know what they're talking about? And
Mm.
yet, the skill of being able to watch somebody move and knowing exactly what they're doing wrong and exactly how to fix it without
Yeah.
cutting them open or making them spend years on rehab. Sometimes a cue can literally save somebody's low back pain. And that is
Mm.
the like, our oath is first do no harm. That's the oath you take as a
Yeah.
doctor. you need to start with the simplest and least invasive intervention first. But I think there's this pushback that like there are coaches out there that are trained that would be actually more effective than us at helping certain people.
Mm. Was there any nervousness from your side to move from a hands-on model to an online space to do your role?
For sure, because I'm very tactile.
Yep.
Everything that like every way that I had envisioned how do I help people was based on what I felt. And I had
Mm.
to learn the visual cues
Mm.
and spend a lot of time studying that.
Yep.
And that just came with practice. And like I'd sit there with Stu on the couch and he'd be like, yeah, you know, I have 65 messages right now. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go through them all with you. And I'd watch what he was watching and like learn
Yep.
these things. And like, it takes a long time. I mean, you've been
Yep.
doing this for how long?
Long time. Coaching for like 17 or 18 years now.
Right. And it's
Long
such an
time.
amazing skill set that takes so long
Mm.
to develop.
Yeah. Being able to recognize and see movement and then create some sort of effective change
Hmm.
for it. Yeah, which is super exciting. Yeah, I've had a chat with a few people over this side of the ditch in physio space, and I said, "Why aren't you guys doing online stuff? Like, you can reach so much further." And there seems to be a pushback on that need, or if they feel or need, they need to be able to touch or be in the room with
Yeah.
that person. Which reminds me of how I started online coaching. I was like, "Nah, you can't do that." But like,
Yeah,
if I
right.
look at
That's
my
what we used to
yeah,
say. Yeah,
I look at
100%.
my business now. My coaching sessions are a catch up session with the client, and everything is done before I've seen them back and forwarding on a text, a voice call, or a phone call, or a video
Hmm.
to effective change. Like in person stuff now is just to catch up and cement down a couple of things I've already talked about. It's super exciting. But
Yeah.
I like what you said about having like you did your time by sitting there with Stu and
Hmm.
just watching what everyone was
Yeah.
doing and how they were moving.
Lots of time, lots of time. And then, you know, Stu also teaches the prescript barbell course.
Hmm.
So, you know, when he did his first, when we started it as like an in-person seminar, which was awesome, you know, we sat there and we workshopped the entire structure of the course over
Yeah.
coffee for like a week before and planning it all out. And these are all the concepts that, you know, I kind of implement amalgamated with coaching stuff and amalgamated with like medical and rehab stuff is just identifying what is wrong in the lift, what could be also, I look at it from the lens of what could be causing pain based on that
Yep.
failure point, that weakness. And then how do you
Yep.
coach people out of it? What is the appropriate variation or accessory modification or rehab modification that would help them get to that point?
Mm. You must have some pretty cool success stories in your time.
Oh my gosh, so many. And I honestly feel like I've done more with this type of business than with hands-on because like I don't know, maybe you're like this, but when you're working online with people, you're
Mm.
planning so much, right? You're
Mm.
like, we do this for this reason, we do that for that reason. You're looking at like the long scale of things. Whereas
Mhm.
when you're just in person with someone, I'm like, okay, how can I make them feel better today? I
Mhm.
don't think that's as good of a model.
Yep. Yeah, yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
feeling good today and then tomorrow and then maybe the next day, that
Yep.
doesn't mean anything to me. I really hope my patients thank me in 20 years, not 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're not just trying to fix them for the few weeks and make them no longer hurt anymore. You're trying to put a lasting result so that back, knee, shoulder, elbow, whatever it is, issue is no longer a talked about problem, right?
Yeah, just actually, I mean, the way that I tell my patients is like, if you have to go back to something all the time,
Mm.
are you actually better? That's
Mm.
like saying, I don't have headaches anymore. I just have to take Advil every day. It's like, okay, then you're not better. If you have to get dry needled every month, you
Yep.
did fix the problem,
Yep.
right?
Yep. I know. I
Which,
know for myself, I had my own wake up call. Literally that, like, because I've blown some discs out my back, and I was in the chiro. I was getting a little acupuncture over here, and I just sort of stepped back, and I was like, I'm still fucking hurt.
mhm,
I can train now, but I'm still hurt.
yeah,
And all these people are just taking my money essentially and just keeping me on the field. Something needs to change. So I kind of quit, fired everybody,
yeah,
which they kind of do. They'll keep me in the trenches, but I was like, I need to step back and actually look at the problem and fix it and think a little bit bigger than this week, next week, this training run.
exactly, yeah. And there's a lot of merit in that. Like, I think getting treatment is really nice. I think treatment has
Yep.
tons of benefits.
Yep.
But yeah, like in terms of actually planning ahead and making something actually change. And that's,
Yep.
I think, a big part of it though, right? Talking about the capitalism, I essentially have to work myself out of a job with every new person I take on. I have to work myself out of that job.
That's
And
the goal.
with online, it's
Yeah.
it's very difficult for physical therapists to be online because it's not a sustainable model, right? I have
True that.
15 new online clients every week because they get
Yep.
better and then they don't need me anymore. That's the
Mhm.
goal. But it's very different than being, a coach where you have 5 new clients every couple months,
Yep.
right? You have this kind of rotating roster, but then you
Mm.
work with people like Stu, I think on average works with people for like 3 years.
Mm.
So it's like the acquisition is the difficult part. So that model is really hard because people get a lot better with that model and then they
Yeah.
don't need us.
Yeah. I'd imagine your referrals are pretty good then.
They're amazing. I'm super, super fortunate because when I
Yeah.
started my business, I'd say the 80% of my clients in the first year were also all personal trainers who
Yep.
themselves had between 30 and 60 clients themselves.
Yep.
So it just kind of worked out that I mostly worked with people in that space and then they send me their people and I basically
Yep.
co-manage all my clients with them
Yep. Yep.
because I work mostly for coaches. Like coaches hire me to
Mm.
work for their company for the most part versus like individual athletes. Um,
Ah,
because yeah,
interesting.
so they kind of understand what I bring to the table because I'm
Yep.
really adamant that the more the coach is involved, the better the outcome. And
Yep.
I think that really helps coaches know how to help their clients, which is ultimately what they want.
Yeah, 100%. So you also have a space where you'll look after it, like help oversight a whole client base for a person.
Hmm.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's huge. And that's how do you find, yeah, I know I think you find two different types of coaches. One like, oh no, I can't send her to Jam. She works at Stu. I think I steal my clients. Can't do that. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I'm sure that happens. It happened
Yep.
to me once at the beginning of this business, and
Yep.
it went really bad because
Mm.
this athlete was amazing and she was really messed up. And
Mm.
she chose to come to me even though her coach said don't.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, we need to peak differently. We cannot peak with singles if we're going to do a meet. Like, really, really, there's a lot of warning signs here. So if we're going to do this, we
Yep.
have to do it the right way. He didn't listen. She ended up with permanent nerve damage.
Mm.
And he told me, yeah, this is amazing. Thank you so much. I'll implement this. He told her, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's trying to steal you as a client. I'm like, I don't think
Mm.
so. And my husband is pretty much 99% of the time going to be full.
He's full.
Um, but
You got application waiting list for him.
well, yeah. So anyway, it went very poorly. She ended up with an amazing coach after firing him, but like
Yep.
that didn't need to happen.
No.
It's really unfortunate, but I think like I've built trust with a lot of people. They can
Yeah.
understand that like I'm a good person. I have a
Yeah.
really strong conscience. I would
Mhm.
never refer a client to one of our coaches unless
Yep.
they were like, "Hey, I am looking for a coach. I don't have a coach."
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah,
I can give
100%.
you recommendations and even then I don't ask to. I don't usually recommend him because I think it's
Mm.
really based on personality.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and I think the thing I always see when that does happen, it's normally that closed-minded coach that doesn't have enough to be able to look inside and look at the reasons that person left them as well is the big problem. It's like
Yeah.
you weren't offering something and you shooed them away. They weren't stolen from you. There was a
Yeah.
better product somewhere else and they actually got exposure and got to see it, essentially.
Yeah,
If
it's
you,
a scarcity mindset, really is. So you have to ask
Mm.
yourself why you don't trust in what the value that you add to the business
Yep.
or to your service.
Yep.
Because like really, like for me, like I'll call the coach after, like with you, right? We co-managed
100%.
our first person together. I'm like, hey, I want you to know everything. I'm going to send you reports. I'm going to tell you
Mm.
my thoughts. You can tell me your thoughts.
Mm.
And that's always going to have a better outcome.
Yep. Oh, hands down. Yeah, the experience you is extraordinary. I can give you the testimony now if you like.
Aw.
Just put that on the internet. You'll have 1 million more clients. But yeah, that collaborative approach. Like for me as a coach, like as I've been playing in this game, I've always sourced out someone or some people to be able to support and help, because I'm smart enough to know that I'm not that smart and know everything. And I'm smart enough to know that I need to stay in my space and not try and get creative outside of it, because that's where, hey, you break and hurt people, or you just don't get them stronger as well at the same time.
Yeah. And I'm similar, right? I always reach a point with my athletes where I'm like, I really don't think that I'm the best person anymore. I think now you need a coach. Like now it's really about this strength training, and it's about having good programming and having somebody be consistent with you on that. And I don't think that that's the best. I don't think I'm the best person for that.
What common mistakes do you see people make with rehab, do you reckon?
I'd say mistakes. That's a hard word. I'd say it's mostly that people don't know what red flags are. Right? There are some things that are basically lines in the sand where I'm like, that symptom, we don't play with that one.
Yeah.
That's not the one where it's like, take a couple muscle relaxants, take some Advil, sniff a bunch of salts, let's fucking go. Like there are some hard lines in the sand. And this is why I made my manuals is for each of the lists and for each of like the injuries that we look at, there's something where I will say, disclaimer, if you get this is a hard stop. This is not like I'm going to just keep going because I want to. This is go to your emergency department immediately. And I don't think that that's common knowledge, which to me is crazy because I think coaches, they're so valuable and they play such an important role in people's health. And it's so weird that we don't think of them as like healthcare professionals, because anyone who's working with you on fitness is literally changing your life, literally adding years to your life every single day. And it'd be really cool if they knew more about those red flags, because those are really easy things that people can identify. And when I do my intakes with clients, I teach them this stuff. So I go, hey, if you're ever worried, try this, try this. If you feel this, that's a hard stop.
Yeah.
Right. And just giving them that education so that next time something happens, they can make the call for themselves and they can learn a little bit more about that.
How do you go managing the psychology of a competitive lifter with that sort of hard no stop? Because it's hard. I know personally, when I like to compete, it's hard to do the no, don't do.
Super hard. Yeah. I actually had a really high level female re-herniate a disc like 2 weeks ago. I think I teared up while talking to her about this because I saw her welt up being like, hey, I don't think that we can keep going here. Like, and that's not to say you can't keep training. All of my athletes, you could be cut in half. I'll find something you can do. But yeah, when it comes to the competitions, a lot of people are pretty good in that they're like, I want to do this for a long time and this is a really big part of my life and this is, a really big hobby. It doesn't make sense to continue to sit out for a year. It doesn't. And then you always will get people who are obviously a lot more invested in something for whatever reason. And I just try to make it as little emotional as possible. Just say like, okay, so these are all of our pathways and we can walk down each one, and whatever one you want to walk down, I'll stand right there with you. But this is how they can go. And you can choose which one you want to do based on your personal, risk aversion.
Yep. Yeah, because that's the hard part for elite or elite mindset, I like to call it, for the amateur athletes. We can still be elite as an amateur. We just train like one, except maybe we don't have the total to support it. But but we still have the same buy-in and excitement for this thing, and we love barbells and moving. If we're talking about powerlifting anyway, and occasionally you do get that, hey, you don't get to do this. You need a break, and that can be hard to hear.
Yeah, no, it's challenging.
I remember I subluxed the shoulder forward, I think. Bakersfield fractured something and did a labrum tear of the shoulder. And I went through my people and I went to my sports doc, who's my guy that always says, yeah, bro, you'll be right, get in there. I went and saw him. And like 3 weeks out, he goes, oh, you're a fucking idiot if you put a barbell on your back again. You're not doing the comp.
Yeah.
I always remember that one.
Yeah, but I've done both too. I've gone strong, bullheaded, competed after dislocating a shoulder, Should not have done that. Tell you right now,
Yeah.
that was a year recovery that didn't need to happen. And I've done the other way. I herniated a disc and then actually pulled out of a meet. And I was like, I'm proud of myself because last time I was stupid and that was the least fun I've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah. Got it broken. Is that your worst injuries you've got for yourself? And obviously with gymnastics, cheer and dance and some lifting, you'd have some broken parts in your time.
Well, I would say like when I was a gymnast, I demolished one of my ankles like in a million pieces and got a really bad concussion, which is why I stopped gymnastics. I would say that one's the worst because now I can really only exercise with like stationary footing
Yep.
because my parents didn't take me to physio. So definitely a lot of problems there. That one literally, that was career ending. But also with gymnastics, it's a little bit more time sensitive based on age. So if you don't hit a certain level by the age of like 13, they're like, you're not going to the Olympics. You're done. You're old news already. So you have to be serious really young. Like I trained 5 nights a week at like 4 years old. It was a lot. My poor parents. I'm like, oh my God, you sat there all week.
That's a lot of gymnastics.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. But yeah, like for powerlifting, those were my 2 worst ones. And I learned very valuable lessons from both.
Yeah. How do you go rehabbing yourself? Are you a good patient to yourself?
With my shoulder, I was very serious because I was like, if I deadlifted, it would come out of the socket. And I was like, okay, we really fucked up, Jem. Like I had to sit myself down. I'm like, you have to grow up right now. Okay. So we had a gym attached to our place and I would go for literally 45 minutes, 4 days a week. And I would just do shoulder rehab. I took it really serious.
Yeah.
And that one, it got better really fast, but the plateau at like 80, 85% was there. And like, I still can't low bar squat. If I low bar squat, my shoulders pop out at depth. It's nuts. Yeah. This is why gymnastics bodies and powerlifting is really complicated. Because I'm just
one's bendy, one's not.
Yeah, exactly. So really unnatural styles of movement for me. With the disc herniation, I was a terrible patient. Terrible. I don't think that people should ever manage themselves. I definitely should have seen people, but I went to chiro here. He didn't know how to take reflexes properly. I was like, we're done. I did do some physical therapy, but it was like, again, not like graded to my level. And I'm like, well, who would I hire that would know what to do? And I'm like, well, it's me, for fuck's sakes. Like, you know what I mean? I just like did that a lot. And, Stu really helped me. And I basically just rebuilt all of my list from ground zero.
Yeah, nice. So who do you look for inspiration then? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people look up to you and what you do because you're top tier in my opinion. But where do you look?
That's a really good question. I mean, I learn a lot from coaching. I think that, I'm not going to toot my husband's horn, but I really think that one of the most valuable things that you can do as a coach or as a physical therapist or any in between is have a coach yourself. Like, it's so crazy when people are like, no, like, I don't want to coach. I'm like, but you do this. You know that it's so valuable because I love seeing other people's views on things. And then I also, 90% of my clients are coaches. So I learn from them a lot too. I work for 3 different powerlifting companies. So I co-manage with, I think, like 8 different powerlifting coaches basically pay me to do an intake with every one of their new clients. And so tons of people where I'm like learning what they're doing in powerlifting or what they're doing in strongman or whatever. I think it's in like the co-management. I've learned so much from the trainers, honestly. Like they're so valuable in the healthcare sphere. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And then being able to work with so many different coaches, I guess you'd see so many different ways that people are doing it, right?
Yeah, it's so cool. And everything seems to work.
That's what I like, right? I at any point in time I have a top tier coach or lifter on here, I go, all right, what's the secret?
Yeah, the secret.
Are you doing threes? Are you doing threes when I'm doing fours? Is that what it is? You got to be 8.5 instead of 9s?
Imagine it were like that.
Oh, man. Be way stronger.
Yeah.
They all say the same thing.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. But probably the biggest lesson I've taken for myself and trying to deliver that to some of my own clients is the narrative I hear from the top coaches. It's just the mindset that sets apart their top lifters. And it's just, they've got, lack of a better word, athlete mindset. They're treating the sport like it is sport and it's not amateur. And that's the message
100%.
I try and drive to my guys, is because whilst they are, there's some guys pushing the top that go to the invite comps, but the majority of them are just, they love the sport and they like it. I said, well, you can still have an elite mindset with 3 days a week, 2 days a week, 1 day a week, whatever you're doing. It's just going hard on that stuff as well, which I love.
But that
What do you
brings in
think?
also chronic pain management is all about the relationships. And like you see coaches like Trevor Jaffe, like he's an amazing coach. He's so talented. He's like exceptional with deadlift coaching. Obviously, that's I think what he's well known for. But you go to his seminars and he's talking about how you talk to people. He's talking about how you bring energy up in your clients. And I love that because that's, if I pulled anything out of school, it was that. It's how you talk to people, how you support them, how you develop relationships with them. That trust is what's, if you tell them, hey, you're deadlifting 600 today, and they trust you, they're going to pull that off the floor. Right? And
Absolutely.
like I have that relationship with my husband. There's never been a time where he's like, you're doing this, where I was like, no, I can't. Because I'm like, I know if he tells me that, I can absolutely do it. I don't even think twice. I just do it.
Yeah, 100%. I think, that's a good point. Coaches need to work on their ability to communicate and talk to the human that's sitting there, not just the meat and bones trying to move weights. It's the thing inside that's connected to all that tissue and it's driving it, being able to build that relationship to create communication. Absolutely. What's so with rehab, something I think there's opportunity with is just the amount of time and effort people put into it. Like I think too often people get prescribed something and then they just give it the minimum dose.
Yeah.
I think. Is there a maximum dose? Like is 1,000 bird dogs in a day too many bird dogs? If we're going right down to the very basic of a core movement, like
that might be too many bird dogs. Like I
there
think
might be too many. But if you had the time for it, right? If you could spend, you only did 10 minutes a day. What if you did 20?
Yeah. I mean, what
split it
I
up?
say with my clients, again, this comes back to here, is I'm like, I'm going to tell you what I think you should do. I'm going to, not going to tell you how many sets to do. You're going to go through it and you're going to tell me what is going to be adherable for you. What's repeatable. Some people, they have kids, they have businesses. They're not going through 25 minutes of rehab 4 times a week. They're just not. So I don't care. That's fine. But we have to find what you can do consistently, because it's only things that you can do consistently that are going to make you better.
Yeah.
So it's going to be different for every single person.
Yeah. And being able to have that honest chat around what they actually have time for, not I have all this magic time.
Yeah, like I'm always like, don't like overpromise and underdeliver. I want you to tell me. They'll tell me and I'll bring it down just one below what they told me. So I'm like, I'll make it a little bit easier than what you said. Do you think we could do this?
Yeah. And will you find yourself going the other way for the right mindset of person and push them and say, hey, look, 3 ain't going to do it. You need 4. You need to do
like,
this.
let's load this sucker up. Like, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I had that from a physio. I saw old Doc Locke, Andrew Locke over here. I was seeing him for my blown discs, and I walked out of the room. I was like, oh, bro, what do I do this thing? These exercises a few times a day, like a few times a week. What are we doing? He's like, Johnny, you want to fix it? I was like, oh, yeah. He goes, man, a few times a week. You're kidding me, right? Like you'd be doing that every day, a few times a day.
Yeah.
And then like that was my rehab moment epiphany back in 2000 and long ago.
Yeah.
That my thoughts were you should and could, if you could, you could do more.
Yeah.
And that might speed it up a little bit. Like if
completely accurate. And I tell people, because they're like, how long is this going to take? I said, how much are you going to put in?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
How accurate can you get at picking timelines for things once you know what they can do?
Yeah, exactly. I need to see who they are, how they think, how they work. Really hard to give timelines. And I really do try to under promise and over deliver.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
better
because
way to go.
particularly with an athlete, right, they're going to want an answer. Like, hey, what's this, 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Like, we on 6 weeks on this one? 4 weeks? Like,
But you
where are
can
we
also
at?
go, the average person is this.
Yeah.
The pluses of your side are you're motivated, you're dedicated, you're athletic. So if you do it this much, we can get
Yeah.
you here maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I
But,
bet they
if
love being
you're
called
busy,
average.
don't feed yourself and you're doing these things, then maybe we'll be looking more at that. So I make it kind of
Yeah.
like a choose your own adventure. There's
Yeah.
nothing to do with what I say. It's all about how much investment you want to make.
Yeah. Do you see the future of your space, more people braving it and moving out of four walls and into the online world?
Yeah. There's probably going to be like AI doctors in the next 5 years. I probably
Have
won't even
to.
have a job.
Have to be. No, I think you'll still have a job because there's still the personal side of it.
No, AI is going to mangle that.
Mm,
Um, Actually, they're much better than medical doctors at like diagnosing like
yeah.
medical conditions, which is crazy. But I think with
Mm,
rehab, it's almost like a art to science. I don't think
yeah.
that rehab is concrete, black, white. I think it
Mm,
is art. Like it is
yeah.
going to be so widely different for every person. I've never written the same rehab program twice,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I've
Do
seen
you, are you,
hundreds of the same
yeah.
things.
Are you excited for the AI space and what it could mean for your industry, our industry?
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, like I
Mm,
love what I do. I'm like
mm,
it's hard for me to envision where it can go from here because I still am
yeah.
like I can't believe it got here.
Hmm.
Um it just kind of did.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows what's in the future. I mean, I also love my in-person practice too.
Yeah. So how many people would you see in person a week?
So I do 15 hours in person a week,
Yep.
which keeps it small and people that I like from the gym. And I spend an hour with each person, and you just get so much done in that time frame versus like 10-minute doctor's appointments. Like, I
Mm,
hate that. It's just not for
yeah.
me. So yeah, I absolutely love my in person stuff.
Yeah.
It's really energizing, especially when you just choose to work with people that you like.
So, and does that help hone and craft your skills, you think, still keeping a in-person touch
Yes, and
as
I think
well?
that's really valuable because you never know what's gonna come up. Like, I had a guy 2 days ago who I ended up diagnosing with, like, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and it's like, this is not something that, like, you really would get into as much with a virtual space. You'd probably
Mm,
go in circles for a while, really
yeah.
missing that kind of diagnosis, or,
Yeah.
people come in, they have weird symptoms, it's like, "Oh, I have to do my vitals, I have to, like, do things that I learned in school that I use every once in a while." But I
Yeah.
think it's a really cool skill set that I built
Yeah.
over a very long time, especially with like the manual therapy and having that like connection with other people, being able to like
Mm,
actually like talk to their bodies in a different way.
yeah.
I love that. I feel like I enter a different space. Like it's truly
Mm,
like therapeutic for me.
yeah. Robots can't do that yet either.
Well, there is robots that do massages, but I had a patient in IT today. He was telling me if they get one bug, that
Yeah.
shit's gonna break your back. They're like,
Yeah.
well, they exist. I don't know what country has implemented that yet, but I don't think that you can replace human touch.
I'd be a bit nervous being on the robot massage. Like, what if it like pushed a bit too hard and
That's
it
what I'm
doesn't know what that
saying.
is?
You will have a broken spine by accident. And I was like, oh, we didn't do the software update in time.
Yeah, sorry about that. We didn't get version 2.6 in today. My bad.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, they totally exist.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah,
Mhm.
I'm excited. I mean, I think I can see. I personally think the coaching space for anyone in this area in the next 3 to 5 years is it's going to be completely different in how it works and operates.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
if we're not, and if you're not into it and ready to go with it, you could get left behind.
Yeah. Well, I think everything that we do is evolving based on what's going on in society. And
Mm.
frankly, like the whole Kodiak thing came from COVID.
Yeah.
Like literally
You
one
guys
of the
are driving.
worst things that we've
Yeah.
all been through literally sprouted this like evolution of
Mm.
how people could train because in Canada we had lockdowns on and off for 2 years. You couldn't train at a gym. It was illegal to train in a gym, and we would sneak to our friend's gym who had all the doors locked, and we'd like park somewhere else and we'd go through the back door. and it was like a nightclub in there. You know, everyone in the city that knew the inn like got into this gym. And then
Mm-hmm.
the police raided it one time. And I'm literally on the video footage, threw dumbbells out of my hand and booked it out the door. And I'm like, I'm gonna go to prison for going to a gym. Can you believe this is happening right now? But that was reality for 2 years of my life because that's the way it went in Canada. I think it was kind of similar in Australia. It was just
Yeah.
constant lockdown. So we're like, we have to figure something out.
Mm.
People can't do things in person. I mean, I still had my private practice, but
Yeah.
it was very different. People would get freaked out and 50% of your patients would cancel.
Yeah.
So we were forced to evolve this way. And I
Yep.
think it has a ton of benefits. I mean, I think lifestyle wise, it's really nice for people. And then also, like for me, if I were to hire a coach, I don't like being like, I have to be a strict schedule. I got to meet you at 8 a.m. at this day at this time. What if I don't feel good at that time?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? And I like just like, okay, well, I go on my own schedule and I film it and I send it to
Yep.
you when I do it.
Yep. And then
I
we can
love
talk
it.
all week.
It's so much better for me. So anyone with a busy schedule, I'm sure they prefer that too.
Yeah, I'm excited about it because, well, at least in my world, majority of the clients are powerlifting clients, essentially, whether it's mid range, top tier, whatever. They're all powerlifting, but I've got a few that have got nothing to do with powerlifting, and they're just there because their friend does it, and they understand that a barbell is important in their life. They don't care for lifting heavy, but they like it, and you've nailed the head. They love the flexibility that comes with the online nature.
Mm-hmm.
I think us coaches out there are about to have a huge explosion effect because once general population really sees and starts to understand it, because most of them don't, I think, understand it just yet. But once they do understand it and see the value of it, I think we're going to see this massive influx of more people
Yeah.
jumping into a gym and being supported by good quality people, getting progression, which excites me.
It's so funny
Absolutely.
because I was talking to actually my mom and a client of mine. He's won like 12 pro shows and he's amazing. He owns the gym that we train at here. And I was like, what was the gym like back in the day? Right? Because I remember when I was young, my mom trained at the gym in the 90s. And I was like, I don't think that was really common in the 90s. Right? Nowadays, it's like, oh, all the kids will, after high school, we even have powerlifting teams in our high school here. It's so
Wow.
cool. But I'm like, there's no way that it was like normal. And they were like, yeah, it was, it was $50 a month back then, which is like in today's dollars, $10,000 a month. And they'd pay all this money, and there'd maybe be like 15 people in your town that like went to the gym.
Mm.
And look at it, look at now, like how, like, who doesn't have a gym membership?
Oh yeah, yeah. The growth is big. And I think it's super exciting, and I think there's a lot of people starting to, because I've been here for 18 years or 17 years, many years. I've enjoyed the narrative and the understanding around the importance of it. Because like back then, I felt like you had to sell gym to people. Like it was kind of cliche. It was kind of fun. Oh, you had a PT. Oh, look at you. You're a bit fancy. Or, ooh, you went to the gym. But nowadays, and the reason for going were just a bit like that. I want to look good, feel good. But nowadays, there's a real health switch that is drawing people to the gym
Oh yeah.
because people, which I love, people are talking about longevity. People are understanding resistance training and its benefits, and people who probably would never have considered it now have value and buy-in for it because there's so much good conversation around the benefits of it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's
I
really
look forward
funny.
to
I
seeing.
like studied that when I was in school, that switch of like health being the ultimate resource now. And it's like it
Mm,
wasn't like that. Like we used to like smoke cigarettes and like pregnantly, walk down the
yep,
street. Like it just, you know what I mean? Like when I was a
hmm
kid, we smoked in restaurants. Like
yep,
it's
yeah,
something that kids nowadays would never even.
yeah,
It's nuts. And then all of a sudden, exactly, there's a switch. It's like, oh, we can actually do this better. I'm interested to see if the longevity is actually there because
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like people always live to be like between 80 and actually,
yeah, yeah,
I think that Stu and I looked this up like a year ago. I'm pretty
yeah,
sure actually the average age of death has now younger.
yeah. I've seen that. I think in US,
I'm like, what is happening?
that's not good.
But we all
The
got
thing
our
I
gym memberships.
Yeah, we gotta use them. The thing I think about, and this reigns with my boy Pete, who's 70. He's not necessarily focused on the more minutes. Well, more minutes is nice too, but it's the quality of the time on the planet
Yeah.
that I'm seeing a switch in. But Pete's 70, is my trailblazer. But girls that I train sort of entering 50s or leaving 50s towards 60s, the narrative is the same. They're starting to consider like, yeah, more time is nice, but then with time I have, I want it awesome and capable and able to do stuff.
Yeah.
And for them, they're looking around their room at their peers of similar age groups and just seeing like a wind down effect starting to happen for them.
Mhm.
Things are hurting, things are bumping, things are bruised. The ability to keep up with kids, grandkids, etc., is dissipating.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm seeing a real play and a push for that. That's a driving reason, as well as more minutes, but recognizing there's more quality minutes to be had. Because yeah, you could still be hit 80, 90, maybe 100 if you're lucky, but that last 20 is you just cooked in a bed.
And that's a slippery slope though, because I could be like,
Yeah.
listen, I could die tomorrow. I should smoke my cigarettes and I should live my life to the fullest right now. Right?
Yeah, that's the opposite, right? The send it mentality instead. The bus could get you, so why wait?
Yeah, or just like, if it's quality, then just do what you want to do.
Mm,
Right? So
yeah,
it definitely can swing the other way
yeah,
too far.
yeah. And that's why you got to enjoy the barbell when you use it.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, we're here. It's crazy. Like how many hours have you clocked touching a bar?
All of them. I have industrial deafness because of it.
I think all you
Literally
guys do. I wear like
from the bars just
earplugs.
banging into the rack over and over again.
Yeah, like we've invested so much time.
Mm,
So much time. I
absolutely.
wouldn't trade it for anything. But when I
No,
actually think back of like, especially when we first moved to America and I wasn't working, we were in the gym like 3 hours a day. Like it was sweet. We just like,
glory days.
we just worked hard.
Mm. I often wonder what people do with that time.
Like 3 hours in the gym.
Yeah, I was like, because if I didn't go to the gym, I'd have all these extra magic minutes. Like,
Oh
what
my
do these people
gosh.
actually? Yeah, what do they
No,
do with
no,
this other time?
I don't. We would have an entire part-time job.
Like, am I meant to sit on the couch?
I guess so. I mean, I guess I have a really strict rule in my life before I got married, which is that I will never waste my life sitting on a couch.
I love that.
And I did like adult gymnastics kind of as like slightly crippled with my ankle. I'd still do it. And then,
Mm.
I did my powerlifting and I had my clinics and I did not watch TV. I
Yeah,
refused. I was like, I'm not wasting my life doing that. That's stupid.
yeah.
Come home one day, Stuart Locke has bought like a 75-inch flat screen. I'm like, the fuck is that? It's like, I can't stay here like this. I'm like, yeah, you have to sit with your thoughts. It must be terrible. Um, but yeah, like when I think about how much time I would have without the gym, oh my God, I'd be loaded. I would have
Mate,
like 8 other businesses.
wild. Where do you see the future of rehab and that sort of stuff going? Is there anything new or anything exciting that you see coming out in the next year or two that people are looking to do or trial or do anything different? Or is it just more of the same good stuff?
I mean,
Because it's always evolving, right?
it's very much evolving. Firsthand, the way that I'm pushing things and the way that I'm kind of directing with my business is starting to look at injuries in the context of the sport or in the context of the lift that hurts. So, like my manuals, for example, it's not like, oh, rotator cuff tear, and I'm selling this manual on how to do these winky dinky exercises. It's okay, your shoulder hurts and you're benching. How do we make your bench better for that pain? And how do we make your pain better for that bench? And I think we need to start looking at things that way. Not, I mean, people take it out of the context of the sport and then they like, rub them and needle them and then send them back, but they don't change what they're doing. It doesn't matter.
Mm,
So I think that perspective of instead of getting so honed in on diagnostics and just
mm,
thinking about, okay, so you have this pain in this lift, both of them
mm.
are equally important to address.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm taking things. And that's why I made my manuals. And I'm hoping that, it's completely unique perspective to know how to use the barbell to get better and
Mm,
also how to use rehab to get better and how those go together. Um, And then I also see, companies kind of working toward the model that we started with Kodiak, which is,
Mm.
everyone else who I also work with, and, having that type of eye to work together, like me knowing where my shortcomings are and knowing when to defer to the coach, and the coach knowing when they're not sure about something, and, having me step in and help that, and more of those types of relationships. Because when people get possessive over clients and they would work against each other, I can tell you right now, the client is not coming first.
Mm-hmm.
And if people can focus on that, and you can tell when you talk to people, right? It's like, are you in this for, your money or whatever? Or are you in this because like you just love to see people succeed? You can
Mm.
tell. You can tell pretty quick. Right. I knew that like the first day I met you, I said to Stu, I was like, that guy really gives a shit about his clients. I love seeing that. And so
Mm.
I really see people working more toward being okay with being like, hey, I actually don't know. Let's talk to people who know, and let's work with people we trust, and being way more team based.
Yeah. Yeah, I think definitely seen that. That'd be pretty
Mm-hmm.
rad. A lot more collaboration, a lot of people working together. There's plenty of people out there, right? And they all need help. And
Yeah.
there's not that many of us. So
Yeah.
let's all work together. Let's be a team on this thing, which I
Yeah.
love.
Absolutely.
And yeah, shout out for Stu again, mate. He's a weapon. Like even I had a phone call with him, whatever, just asking questions about online business. And he had nothing but time for me,
Yeah.
which was awesome. And like, it's good to see there's plenty of Stews out there yourself that no doubt will thrive, that we are all going to thrive because of that collaborative approach, all working together and helping each other, not just out there shitting on each other.
Yeah. There's plenty of people to go around. That's not the issue.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's how I mark a quality person. If I see someone shitting on another person, I cut them. They're done. I don't find them interesting. I don't care if they're doing threes and I'm doing fours. If that's their secret, I don't want to know it.
Dude, that is the secret. You can't expose it on this podcast.
I do occasionally, and this you might have a giggle on this. I try and predict the exercise of the year because I
Oh,
do find if
it's
you
gonna be
follow,
like the it girl.
yeah, because if you follow enough coaches, you all of a sudden start seeing whether it's herd mentality or what. One will put up a Zercher lunge and talk about the benefits and why that's going to be the creator, and then you all of a sudden see another one start following that, and you see another one, and then another one. So I always try and predict what
Okay,
the
what
X.
is it this year? I don't use social media.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I'm gonna predict a Zercher lunge for the
Zercher
year.
lunge. Okay,
Yeah,
I actually
that.
posted a heels elevated Zercher squat.
Oh,
Um,
there we go.
yeah, so it's starting. We're getting there.
Yeah,
Zerchers are
we're
coming
there.
back.
We'll trend it. I think so. And personally, I program it. I love it. I think it's a great exercise. So if more people do, it'll be good for them.
Dude, you're starting
Absolutely.
it. You're gonna make the it girl of the year.
Damn it. Good. I'm gonna get 2,000 followers now. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's
I have
next
one
week.
more question for you. Being it's night time, I'm assuming you've probably had dinner. So I'm going to ask you, what are you having for dessert?
I didn't have dinner.
No dinner yet. What's for dinner?
I don't think you want to know how I eat. It's not pretty.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
It's I'm gonna have pesto chicken sausages.
That's delicious.
Yeah.
With rice,
Well,
pasta, or just straight up sausages?
I don't know. Sometimes I like to treat myself, and instead of having rice, I just have a couple packs of fruit gushers.
Done.
Listen,
I
life
love
is
it.
meant to be lived.
Mm-hmm.
It's about
Mm-hmm.
the quality, right?
Yep.
I want my fruit gushers.
Then that's got to be done. If
Yeah,
it fits the macros.
that's
Perfect.
how it is. It fits the macros.
Jem, mate, I know where to find you on Instagram, but the world might not know yet. Where are they? Where do people contact you if they're a coach looking for collaboration and support? This incredible humans I can vouch for, of course, as well. Where do they find you? What do they do?
Yeah, absolutely. So Instagram, I guess, is probably my biggest platform. Dr. J'aime Gougen. Very easy, and I actually do talk to people. So if you message me and say, "Hey, I have this issue," or "Hey, can you watch the squad?" or "Hey, I have this client with this thing. What direction should I go in?" I am more than happy to help anybody out anytime.
Awesome, mate. Again, thank you very much for coming on. Much appreciate your time. Say hi to Stu for me. Tell him he's awesome for
Absolutely.
me.
Say hi to the girls. I miss them. They're so
I will.
cute.
Oh, mate, it's so good. Big developments over here. Little Kendra's at kindy, or daycare, pre-kindy it's called. And this
Oh,
is her second day today. Big
oh
girl.
my gosh.
It's amazing. She instantly went into the playground, went straight for the other kids, pretty much disengaged from us completely. And when we came back after filling out some paperwork to try and get a photo with her, she was not reluctant, but certainly not desired or found it important to come to us to get a photo. And then once the photo was taken, she was like, okay, see you later.
Oh, that's so good
Yeah.
though.
Little Miss Independent. Mum and dad needed a hug after that one.
Oh, she's so freaking precious.
She's the best, mate.
Both of
I
your
love it. And
kids
she's
are
just
just
starting her jiu-jitsu classes with dad this week. So
no way.
yeah.
Oh my God. You guys are
No,
amazing parents.
thank you, mate. Thanks again for coming on, mate. We'll chat, no doubt, on the onlines about more things, and this will come out soon. Look forward to everyone seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having
Sweet.
me.
Thanks, Jam. Bye-bye.
Bye.